Okay, last video to review the activities from Friday. I just want to remind you that even if you haven't completed these assignments, you still can complete them even after you've watched this to make sure you get 100%. But many people are not answering all the questions in each section, so make sure you do that before you hit submit so you can get full credit. This first section I'll read to you, the other ones I won't read, but I'll go over all the questions and the answers. It says feudalism and the shogunate. Early Japan was ruled by wealthy, powerful families. Each family controlled a large estate of land. The lord of each estate was called a daimyo. The majority of Japanese people, who were poor farmers, were ruled by the daimyos. This system of government is known as Japanese feudalism. Early Japan did have an emperor, but his power was limited. He was usually just a figurehead. The real control was held by the powerful families. By the 1100s, the family who ruled Japan was the Minamoto family. The head of the Minamoto family was Minamoto Yoritomo. In 1192, Yoritomo was named the first shogun, or general, of Japan. The daimyos came under the control of the shogun. In theory, the emperor ruled Japan, but the real power was held by the shogun and his family. After 1192, the goal of every powerful family in Japan was to provide the shogun. The Japanese government under the shogun, was called the shogunate. The period during which the Minamotos controlled the shogunate is called the Minamoto shogunate. So on the map here we can see where Japan was. Two of the places we saw in the Atlas activities were Kyoto and Edo. It says the shogunate lasted in Japan from 1192 to 1867. You will read more about the shogunate on the following pages. Here's a tip. Notice how some of the bold-faced words in the text above are related. For example, the name Minamoto and the word shogun appear in the name of the period, Minamoto shogunate. Historical periods are often named for the most important people who lived during the period, or for the time's most important events. Okay, these are all true/false. One says, under Japanese feudalism, most of the people were shoguns. That's false. Most of the people were poor farmers, or peasants. 2. The first shogun of Japan was Minamoto Yoritomo. That is true. 3. The first shogun of Japan was a member of the Minamoto family. Well, that's true. You should know that from the previous question. And 4. During the shogunate, Japan's emperor was the most powerful person in the land. That's not true. Although the emperor was supposed to be the person in charge, it's really the shogun who has the true power. Next section is specifically about the shogun. I won't read you all that, but we have to pick from the multiple choice options. 1. What does shogun mean? Is it great general, family, emperor, or high priest? If you looked up here, they told you in the beginning the word shogun means great general in Japanese, and the shogun was the person in charge of the military. So A is your best choice. 2. What did the shogun control? All appointments to the government, the law of the country, the finances of the government and the country, or all of the above? Correct answer is D, all of the above. Each one of these things was under the control of the shogun, which is showing you here why this person was so powerful. 3. Who was the first shogun? Ashikaga, Tokugawa, Yoritomo, or Yamaha? Best choice is C, Yoritomo. So remember, Minamoto Yoritomo is the very first shogun in Japan. Next section talks about the samurai, these Japanese warriors who served both the shogun and the daimyos. 1. What was a samurai? I just gave it away. Code of conduct, warrior, a kind of suicide, or a sword? B, a warrior is your best choice. 2. What was Bushido? We saw this in the previous activity. Bushido was this code of conduct, this way of the warrior. People who were samurai warriors were supposed to be honest, were supposed to be skilled in fighting, were supposed to observe this strict code of behavior. And like I mentioned earlier in the other video, to a samurai, dishonor, they said, was worse than death. To avoid it, it says he would submit or commit seppuku or harakiri. Both of these mean a ritual form of suicide in which the samurai killed himself by cutting open his abdomen with a sword. The next section is about the Ashikaga shogunate. The Ashikaga family will come after the Minamoto family. 1. Which shogunate, gave you that one too, did the Ashikaga shogunate replace? A is your best choice, the Minamoto shogunate. 2. Who was the first Ashikaga shogun? Kyoto, Yoritomo Minamoto, Ashikaga Takaji, or Bushido? Your best choice is C, Ashikaga Takaji. Alright, after that comes the Tokugawa shogunate. Question 1. What city did Edo later become? If you read in this section here, it says Tokugawa Ieyasu established the capital at Edo, and Edo would later be renamed Tokyo, and that is the capital of Japan today. So 1 should be C, Tokyo. 2. Which statement about the Tokugawa shogunate is false? 3 of these statements are true, 1 is false. Tokugawa Ieyasu became shogun in 1603. The Tokugawa shogunate ruled Japan for the next 250 years. The Tokugawa shogunate was the last shogunate in Japan, or during the Tokugawa shogunate there were many civil wars. The only false statement there is D, there were many civil wars. Actually, there was a period of peace when the Tokugawa were in charge, from 1603 to 1867, which is why they call it the Great Peace of the Tokugawas. Okay? Speaking of the Great Peace, the next section talks about life during the Great Peace. First thing they asked you up here was to think about taking power away from the daimyos, disarming or taking weapons away from peasants, and starting a class system. The Tokugawas did everything they could to stabilize Japanese society, to stop there from being so much fighting. The question asks, why do you think this was so important to them? Well, think about it. Before the Tokugawa took over, there was constant fighting, constant civil war. When that happens for a long period of time, people want peace. People crave stability. So they did what they could to make things stable because there had been so much fighting before they took over. So you can say, it's your opinion here, but you should say something about how Japan had suffered from civil wars, and after this period of warfare, the government is really trying to provide peace and stability. Number 1. What did the Tokugawa shogunate do to control the daimyos? Remember, the daimyos were these warlords that were supposed to be under the control of the shoguns, but often they competed for power, and everybody was looking to become the next shogun. So what did they do to control these daimyos? Did they prohibit daimyos from entering into alliances with each other? Did they prohibit daimyos from building new castles? Would they hold their families hostage, or all of the above? Your best choice actually is E, all of the above. These are all things that the shoguns did to make sure the daimyos remained under their control and didn't challenge their authority. 2. What happened to trade and urbanization in Japan during the Tokugawa shogunate? Both increased, both decreased, both stayed the same, or trade decreased but urbanization increased? Your best choice is A, both increased. The last paragraph tells us that. During the time of the Tokugawa, trade within Japan increased, and as more people are living and making money, making their living through trade, cities grow, the number of people living there grows. That's what urbanization is. Last section. Foreign contacts and the closing of Japan. Number 1. Which European nation first began to trade with Japan? England, France, Portugal, or Spain? Portugal is your best choice here. It mentions that Japan ceased to be isolated in about the mid-1500s, and we've learned that the Portuguese were the first of the Europeans to start exploring, looking for sea routes to Asia, so they wouldn't be charged such high prices by the Muslims, by the Ottoman Turks, who controlled the trade routes between Europe and Asia once they gained control of Constantinople. So the Portuguese were the first to arrive from Europe and Japan, and they began trading there. 2. Why did the Tokugawas object to firearms? Well, think about it. Their warriors, their samurai, fought using swords. So if people could bring in guns, that's a weapon that could easily defeat the samurai. So your best choice is going to be B. Firearms could defeat the samurai. 3. What did the missionaries do? We've learned about missionaries in the past. Even to this day, missionaries are people that will go out to different parts of the world and try to convert people to Christianity. And that's one of the things that missionaries did, beginning with the arrival of the Portuguese. There were people there trying to spread the Christian faith. Many of them were Jesuits. They tried to convert the daimios. They figured if they could convert the daimios, they could get the people who followed those leaders to also convert. So 3, missionaries are C, converting the Japanese to Christianity. 4, how did the Tokugawas react to the threats of foreign contact? Well, they were worried that foreigners would have too much of an influence, and they basically decided they wouldn't let foreign people in anymore. They would seal up the borders of Japan. It says not only were foreigners not allowed into Japan, but Japanese were not allowed to leave, and foreign travel was prohibited. Even the construction of any ships that could cross the ocean was outlawed. So they really did everything they could to prevent other people from having an influence. So 4 would be A, they closed the borders of Japan. And 5, I think I gave you 2. Which of the following was prohibited? That means not allowed. After the closing of Japan, travel to foreign countries, construction of ships that could cross the ocean, trade with foreign countries, or all of the above. All of the above is your best choice. Okay, I also had you do the quiz on this one. I'll go through those questions quickly. 1. Who was the most powerful ruler in feudal Japan? Many of you put the emperor. It's not right. The emperor was the figurehead, technically the person at the top, but really the shogun is the person with the most power, so 1 is D. 2. What type of power did the shogun have? Military, financial, legal, or all of the above? All of the above is your best choice, D. The shogun had authority over the military, over the finances of the country, over the laws as well. 3. Who were the daimios? Shoguns, warriors, feudal lords, or nobles? The best choice is C, feudal lords. They were warlords. They were below the shoguns and above the samurai. Feudal lords is the best choice. 4. What were the warriors of feudal Japan called? Shoguns, daimios, samurai, or nobles? Samurai is your best choice. Number 4 is C. 5. What happened to trade and urbanization in Japan during the Tokugawa shogunate? They increased, they decreased, they stayed the same, or they increased first and then decreased? This is a similar question to what they asked earlier. Both of these things increased when the Tokugawa were in control. 7. What European nation first began to trade with Japan? England, France, Portugal, or Spain? We saw this one earlier too. C is your best choice, Portugal. 7. What ruling family came first? The Minamotos, the Ashikagas, Tokugawas, or they all came at the same time? A is your best choice, the Minamotos. Those were the first shoguns. 8. What was the effect of the closing of Japan? Foreigners could not visit. Japan developed a unique culture. Japan was isolated from outside contact, or all of the above? D, all of the above is your best answer. All those things happened because Japan, for years and years, a period of 200 years, had no real influence from outside. And 9, what did the Jesuits bring to Japan? Christianity, trade goods, firearms, or political ideas? A is your best choice, Christianity. If you hear Jesuits, they're out there trying to convert people to the Christian faith. Okay, there's your review of the activities from Friday's lesson. The way I'm grading those, I'm looking at the score you get, and I'm giving you that grade for the assignment. So please make sure you're taking your time to answer all the questions and that you're getting them correct. Okay? I'll talk to you soon.